and that's what I really want to imply as well, and I think I can feel it here. Okay, where are we going to go this time? All right, the lady over here.
About steroids, but we hear a lot about steroids being dangerous, and yet I think that all the top guys are using them. Is there a secret to take them safely?
Oh, I never used steroids in my life. Oh my God. Okay. Now, the reason I'm very open and honest about steroids and steroid usage, because I feel that for so long athletes, not just bodybuilders, I learned about steroids from swimmers when I was in college. Okay, steroids are around, and they happen to be used in bodybuilding, and rather than to hide the fact that I have used them, do use them throughout the course of the year, I'd rather be honest with you and tell you some of the problems, some of the proper procedures, because I'd like to discourage abuse. Okay, I think abuse is, why should that be present at all? Possibly proper usage or no use at all. And I know, because my honesty and I'm admitting it, that I use steroids, people are going to think, oh well, I got to take them too. I can't know a way I can recommend steroids. Okay, and I don't mean to do that. It's hard to get around the subject, and it's just the only solution I have at the moment is to be totally upfront, totally honest, open up to you, and tell you where I'm at. Okay, I don't believe that steroids create champion athletes, and I sincerely believe the same top athletes would be there at the top with or without steroids. However, not that they don't work either. Okay, I mean, I think that's obvious. Steroids do work. However, God, you gotta lead me a little more, because I'm gonna go. There's so many different ways to go from here. Okay, you know, I'm a firm believer. You know, if someone decides to use steroids, and it's their personal choice whether they decided to do this or not, whether they're man, female, animal, or whatever. Okay, I would suggest having blood assays done periodically through the duration of usage. I think it's important. There's another way you can tell if you're taking too many steroids, and I mean, if your eyes turn yellow and you know your face looks weird, I mean, you're taking too much. Okay, I've seen some of these effects in people I know, and abuse does exist. Abuse exists everywhere. As a maximum figure on steroids, you know, I like to. If you really want to discuss figures, I would say that the most I've ever taken, the most I would ever consider taking would be 100 milligrams a day. Okay, 100 milligrams is based upon my body weight and the type of steroids I take. I believe in anabolic therapy and not androgenic therapy. This is really tough to put into one sentence. I'll have to put it into 3 or 4. Okay. When you're dealing with steroids, you have to realize that they enable you to recuperate quicker, and the whole essence of bodybuilding lies in recuperation. I mean, you get weaker and smaller in the gym, and when you go home and you rest and you eat and you sleep, you get stronger and you recuperate. And so what the steroids do is enable you to recuperate quicker from workout to workout. So in essence, you can get more heavier workouts in per month, say, which leads you to develop faster, of course. There are certain skin characteristics, degrees of polish I receive from steroid usage that I could not get otherwise. Although I found that I've been at my very strongest. I've gotten my biggest, strongest lifts without steroids when I was younger. So I don't really believe that they help me do things I couldn't do without them. Although to obtain a degree of polish and skin texture, that's what the anabolic situation seems to provide for me before the Olympia contest. I can hang on to more body weight, maybe 10, 15 more pounds of body weight than I normally could.
What things are you looking for when you have the blood tests?
Oh God, you need somebody to analyze your blood test and get into every, you know, basically liver function, enzyme activity, elevated enzyme activity, and I'd be weary of that. There are some more androgenic, I hope you know what I mean by that. Androgenic compounds, things that are like testosterone-based items, things that are have more secondary male characteristics. They, to put it short, put it mildly, they aid in more sarcoplasm development. Okay, now sarcoplasm. What do I mean by sarcoplasm? The liquid, the jelly, putty-like stuff that the muscle bathes in. So a lot of times you'll see a guy take Anadrol 50 and blow up like a balloon, right? And after they get off the drugs, back down to a skinny guy again. Okay. Right. a lot of that is water, and a lot of that is sarcoplasm as well. Strength athletes need and require more sarcoplasm enhancement to aid in leverage and in their strength performance. That's why they look smooth and fat, but sometimes it's just sarcoplasm enhancement, not to mention fat and water too. Okay, now you're dealing with a guy that's 6'5", who needs more sarcoplasm enhancement. They may adopt more of an androgenic therapy, more of an androgenic program. These drugs are more dangerous. I'll have to repeat something Arnold said. I always wondered why Arnold liked Dianabol. And I remember him, I wouldn't say this, but he said this in me one time at the Olympia on stage. He said this, that he liked Dianabol, and I was wondering why he liked Dianabol, but I started analyzing it, and Dianabol is like androgenic as well as androgenic, anabolic as well as androgenic. It gave him the sarcoplasm enhancement that he needed for a tall structure. It was anabolic as well, and I feel you get true muscle gains from anabolic situation, and from androgenic gains you get more sarcoplasm enhancement and less actual myofiber development. To mildly, briefly give you my approach to drug therapy, those are some of the items I considered and how I look purely cosmetically, like when I'm concerned with sarcoplasm, which a bodybuilder is. Lee Haney would need more sarcoplasm, where like Tim Belknap, I think he has too much sarcoplasm. Okay, it's like me. If I take what Lee Haney takes, I look like Tim Belknap. Okay, too much sarcoplasm. But Tim's a good friend of mine. I think he's okay. I don't mean to put him down or anything. He's a very superior physique, but these are things I notice. Okay. Not that I'm saying drugs are great. We should all take drugs. Hey, let's hear it. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm opening up and being honest. And I firmly believe in a decreasing dosage pattern under the duration of utilizing anabolic situations. In other words, starting high for a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, going medium for 2 or 3 weeks, going low for 2 or 3 weeks, off for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and going back high again. This enables the body's natural secretion not to shut off completely. As the body's natural secretion begins to diminish, and then you reduce the dosage, and then your body's natural secretion, theoretically, well, supposedly, according to the data that exists, increases. And as you go lower in the dosage, your body goes natural and secretes more testosterone naturally. So you never want to shut down natural secretion. Otherwise, if you take drugs incorrectly, you get smaller and weaker rather than bigger and stronger. Taking too much drugs too long, even if you take more, your body won't respond to it anymore. I'm sure you've heard this and seen people in the gym. I'm not getting any results anymore. You can't get any more effective even if you go present a higher dosage to the body. At that point, you need to get off, cycle down, and clean off well, so to speak. Sometimes when I'm off steroids, I use HCG, human gonadotrophic hormone, to help stimulate natural secretion again. And that's my procedure, to put it very, very lightly. In Germany, I've discussed this same thing I'm discussing right now for about 3 hours, and we didn't do justice to it at all. I've heard Fred Heflin speak on 8 hours, a lunch break, on just androgenic and anabolic therapy. Okay, so it can be a very detailed process, and it tends to get more and more involved as you get more and more educated along the lines of hormonal manipulation. By no means is it risk-free. Granted, I feel that I'm avoiding a lot of the risks involved by avoiding abuse, but there still is a risk present. But you got to understand, I'm not rationalizing and saying I'm proud of taking steroids. Okay, I'm not. But an athlete, as I mentioned earlier, has a need, not just a desire, a need. I mean, an athlete, a true athlete, a professional athlete, will die. I mean, they'll die. I'll die inside if I don't get where I want to go. If I don't give it everything I have. It's me. It's my makeup. It's my life. And to take a steroid which doesn't commit suicide on my part, I feel I can take with a minimum amount of risk and get closer to my goal. Most athletes will pursue drug therapy, and they do. And I think that's one of the reasons they probably get into that train of thought, is because it's more than just a desire. It's a need. They'll die if they don't. They'll die anyhow if they don't get there. So it's like worth the risk in our minds, I should say, most athletes' minds. These are only my views, and not either the Bible. And I don't mean to lay my thoughts on you and my absolute inner feelings and say, this is it. But these are how I feel at the moment. And over the course of years, I've taken drugs incorrectly, and I've developed problems like I couldn't get any more results, and I wondered why I was getting smaller and holding water and these kind of things. and after altering dosage and going to a decreasing dosage pattern, these kind of things, I was able to remedy a lot of the problems I've had, cosmetically speaking. I never had any problems as far as serious side effects, no. Yes?
Just with the IFBB banning steroids in the amateurs this year for the first time, do you think there may come a time when it's banned in the Olympic? I mean, if everyone weren't allowed to use it, it's still fair and equal.
Yeah, that'd be great, okay, if we could do that.
It started in the amateur now, though. It's this
Yeah,
year.
I'm just wondering, athletes are really if there's a way to get around the test, most athletes will find these ways, and they have. Many strength athletes have found different ways. Granted, the tests are getting better, more stringent, and they're restrictor. There are ways and things that some people just don't get detected, and they have things they do. Somehow, I think that trying to impose the test and most athletes trying to get around the test will actually take more risk than taking drugs initially and just by themselves, and they do. Which bothers me some more. It's like my personal belief is sometimes is justifiable as the drug testing could be, and I can see where it would go. If it would go that way, I'd be all for it. I think it just sometimes causes more abuse and suggests to athletes to do other things, resort to other things to get around the test. Speaking from an athlete's point of view, how an athlete really feels inside. I mean, what an athlete says on a panel discussion sometimes is different than what they say in the locker room. Okay, and I happen to. I won't say names. I'll say my name. Okay. I think you'd rather hear that than hear me say, "Well, this is the way testing is great." The next question, okay, which I am saying that too, but I'm just giving you a little more inside stuff from me.
Tom, we appreciate your honesty.
Thank you.
But you're a professional athlete. Now, we get people who did the same mistakes who start taking steroids from the very first day to pick up a barbell.
Right.
Could you pass some comments from that, please?
Well, I know people myself. They learn how to bench press on Monday, and they learn how to take Dianabol on a Monday too. I think this is definitely leading to abuse and more abuse. And I mean, you don't need to take steroids to train with weights. For some reason, we tend to believe, well, steroids are responsible for this degree of success. That's it. There's no question about it. And I remember the old days, and before I even considered taking steroids, and we just trained by our natural instincts. And certain times of the month we were stronger than others, and we were aware of that. When the drugs introduced into bodybuilding, into a lot more into athletics, you train by the drug cycles. The more drugs you're taking, the harder you train, and you get off drugs, you train less, because it leads to injury and all kinds of problems like that. And that's how a lot of the cycles have developed. Believe it or not, it's rather sad in a way. I would love to see it move in the direction of drug-free, because I think it would still continue to thrive in the eyes of people who could advance the sport even further. But drugs are present, and I feel my way of dealing with the problem at the moment is, like I say, just being honest, and rather than say no, I don't, no way, no, and going home and taking an injection or whatever. It's like let's bring it up in the open. Let's bring it up for discussion and deal with it and toss it around and talk about the possible advantages and disadvantages and go from there. If that could be done by everyone, I think it would be okay, but it won't be. I know that too. We're faced with a very big dilemma, I know. I tend to go around in a circle now in my discussion.
But if someone's going to take the choice and take steroids, at what stage is...
Well, I would definitely suggest that a person train for a number of years before they begin to even consider taking steroids. I trained till I was just about 20 years old before I took my first steroid, and back then they were even more controversial than they are now, because not everybody took steroids. And I remember doing quite a bit of research, there wasn't a lot of research done at that time, talking to various people who were considered authorities, and they told me I was ridiculous, I was crazy, I was foolish, and some told me, hey, sure, take everything you want, and some said, well, listen. So I tend to go with people who had, you can find an opinion and prove or disprove anything, you can find data on almost anything nowadays, and I tend to compile information from a lot of different sources and digest it into my own brain and proceed to process my information and go from there. And I would suggest that everyone do the same way you train, learn how to train, learn how to, what works best for you. You digest information, possible advantages and risks involved. And I mean, if I wasn't competing, I wouldn't take steroids for what? I mean, people look at me, oh yeah, money's on the line, all this stuff. still, I don't like the fact that I have to resort to taking steroids. If there was a way for it to just not exist, I'd be all for it. If we just press a button and say, well, no more steroids, let's all take amino acids now, okay? Hey, let's do it. Well, I hate taking drugs. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, when I'm taking a high dose of steroids, I feel sparks, and I get aggressive unnaturally. I feel better when I'm off steroids. I feel calm and more relaxed. My wife's the first to notice it. Increase your dosage again, huh? Yeah.
I've been a professional sportsman, physically involved.
Yes.
I am very interested and done a lot of what you've done myself. I would like to ask you my own personal question.
Certainly.
Is it necessary to have steroids to do what you do?
Is it necessary to have steroids? No, it's not necessary.
Why?
Why? I explained that earlier when I talked about...
Yeah, you have, sure, but isn't life and direction to all people that bodybuild and weight train? Now, isn't it necessary to have your own personal figuration on a situation?
Certainly, most certainly. And that's all I'm presenting to you right now.
I appreciate your opinion as one of the top men in the world. I really do.
Thank you very much. And please, I don't mean to try to change your personal opinion or anyone's. And this is one of the problems. Most athletes won't sit on a stage and talk about steroid usage. And it bothers me. Oh no, it bothers me that a lot of athletes resort to steroids, including myself. Okay? Although it does seem to be effective and recuperative effects are definitely available.
In your country, I've done what I do and thoroughly enjoyed it.
What do you do?
I never took nothing. All I done was train all weights.
Beautiful.
I was a professional wrestler.
Beautiful.
Enjoyed your country, enjoyed my situation.
Thank you, I enjoyed it also. Okay.